Welcome to the Business Leaders Legacy Podcast, the show where we go behind the scenes with business leaders to uncover their vision, strategies, and challenges they face along the way. My name is Chris Bruner. I'm the CEO of Simple AI Solutions and the host of today's podcast. I'm excited to have Joe Furlong, the president and CEO of AiCR. AiCR is known for its smart document processing platform, which uses AI to quickly understand, sort, and pull out key information from documents, especially in the mortgage and finance realm. This helps businesses get smarter insights and act faster. And so I'm excited to introduce Joe. Thank you for being here, Joe. Can you please introduce yourself? Tell our listeners a little about your journey. Really more about what AiCR is and who do you help?
Well, first, thanks for having me on, Chris. It's a pleasure to be on and have this conversation with you. It's always a fun time. So, uh, even to step back a little bit, as you mentioned, I'm currently running the Acre division of MIAC, but my career started. I don't even want to tell you more than 30 years ago. Let's put it that way. I don't want to go any further than that. I want to give away my age. I'm old, but needless to say. And I've always been in the banking, lending arenas in some shape, form, or another. And one of the things that I've always done, even back when I started, which I was fortunate to start when I was 4 years old. That's why I'm so young right now. No, realistically, I started in the business when I was 18, is building computer technology or software technology to help the process become more efficient. And this is going back literally 30 plus years ago, I started this. And I've carried that mantra through my entire career and kind of bring it more current with the Acre division was a natural offshoot of my parent organization, which is MIAC or Mortgage Industry Advisory Company. And MIAC is a risk analytics firm who manages all the risk from the loan from the time of application is taken through its entire life. And their mantra is they build software solutions to be able to support their services. And I was hired 15 years ago to head up their due diligence organization. So that's when you go on and you review loans and ensure that they meet certain requirements. Typically, it's re-underwrite, compliance check the data, check the docs, and making sure that it's done appropriately for whatever reason it is. And I was running this and I was doing thousands of loans a year. And actually, I was fortunate enough to grow it to about 22 countries through the United States and the Eurozone. And I've always think about, well, just like everyone, how do we become more efficient? How can we make this process more efficient? And using an example, on a residential loan, a full review usually takes about 4 to 5 man hours. Let's just say 4 man hours to do it. How can I shrink that? Because the business model and due diligence is not hard. You need to be able to reduce the man hours to be able to have the same level of product. The less man hours, the more money you'll make. And I said to myself, well, this is easy. The low hanging fruit is I'll create a platform that classifies documents and extracts the data. Not realizing that was by far the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. So in essence, that was the birth of Acre. And that journey over the last couple of years has been very fun and very educational, let's say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very interesting. That's a lot that goes into it and it's really cool just to see how all those years of experience just kind of poured into this tool that's come out. And so, yeah, I wanted to know, Acre aims to, change documents and, solving problems and being more useful, using data more useful, and helps make those decisions or helps businesses make decisions quicker. Can you share maybe an example of how Acre has really changed the way clients work and making them, you know, w more efficient, I guess so to say?
Yeah, I absolutely can do that. And I'll continue on my example. So Reviewing a standard residential loan takes about 4 hours. Now, through that process, you basically have to look at the loan file, which can be anywhere from 700 to 3,000 pages, and then extract anywhere from 1,000 to maybe 4,000 data elements from that. Historically, they would be on one monitor. You would have the documents on the other monitor. You would have your review platform, and you would stare at the document, grab the data point, and enter it into the system. And you would go back and forth forever to doing that. Hence why it takes up to 4 hours to do it. So what AiCR does is you load in the document. It will read every page of it. It will say, this is what this document is, and this is the data to extract from it. But to even give you a little bit more challenge to it is, in the world, it doesn't have to be just lending. It could be anything. You have really three main types of documents. You have structured documents, like a credit application that's very rigid. Then you have semi-structured documents that have some rigidity but can flex depending on whatever it's in it. And then you have the completely unstructured documents. And those are the ones like emails and whatever. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So that was the first challenge. Structured documents are easy. The semi-structured and unstructured are very hard. Then the other thing is, in my world, it wasn't always loans that I was reviewing that were originated yesterday. Some of them originated 10, 15, 20 years ago. So imagine handwritten documents that were previously faxed over that are crooked and mangled and stuff. So we needed the system to be able to not only handle those structured, semi-structured, and completely unstructured documents, but whether it's a perfect document or one that is just horrible. And that was the mandate. And that's what took us years to build. We took a different approach. We wanted the brain, as I call it, to be able to handle all of that, where some of our competitors, they actually promote what I call, or they call actually, a human in the loop process. Now, have you ever heard human in the loop process before, Chris?
I actually haven't. If you wanted
Okay,
to fill me in a little bit more.
I will. And they make this out as a advantage. What in essence they do is their clients would upload their documents to their platform. It would be pushed over to a team offshore, typically India, Pakistan, etc. And someone would manually go through and do the classification and the extraction manually. Now, the challenges with that, and I've heard from my clients that the response time is not the best, the consistency is not the best, and that was not the way we wanted to go. We wanted to have the brain, the technology to do it. So in essence, with AiCR, you load the document in, you hit go, and it just goes through everything. It first looks at the document, reads every word of it, extracts everything, understands what it is, then pulls out what is first a field value pair. So if you're looking at like, what's the borrower's name and the borrower name, that's a pair. It will grab that out. If there's a table in it, it'll grab all that out. And
Mm.
it does it automatically. And it does it at about 50 pages per second. So if you have a pool of loans you're buying, let's say it's 2,000 loans, and each loan has 1,000 pages to it. So you're talking millions of pages it needs to go through. Doing that manually is what takes so much time, and then getting that data into it. With AiCR, you throw it in there, a couple hours later, it's fully done. So when the underwriter opens up the review platform, it communicates with AiCR, grabs all the documents, all the data. So instead of sitting there staring, comparing, going back and forth, all the data is all filled in for you. And the other thing that's really important is every data element that we do has a confidence level, because AI is AI. It's never 100% of the time. So what we do is every data element, we give it a confidence score from 0 to 100. So the user can say, only give me data that reaches this certain threshold.
Mhm.
So answering your question long-winded wise, that 4 hour time frame that used to take me to review one loan, I'm down to 2 or 1 hour, and
Yeah.
saving 2 to 3 hours per loan when you're talking thousands of loans really makes a difference.
Huge.
Um,
Yeah.
and the bottom line is AiCR and the infrastructure and the technology that was built on the very current tech stack is built with business users that are in the industry and actually using it makes a difference. So, did that answer your question, Chris?
Yeah, no, it did. That's really interesting. That's really cool to see how it breaks down and how much time it can save. And that's like the question I feel like on so many people's minds is like, you know, they are interested, they know it can save time, but like having that score of how confident is it, the information 100% accurate, having that level of confidence of if it's not super confident then it can maybe not extract that data. That's super important and that's super useful, and so that's totally makes sense, and so that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean it is a critical part of the process, but there's actually another level to it as well, which actually adds the level of complexity too. So in that typical loan file, you may have five versions of the note. Well, I want to grab the original loan amount from the note from the right one. So Acre needs to go through and determine which one is the final one. So it's like stacking. And then we also have a signature validation. So we'll say if there's five versions of the note, we'll stack it in the order and then see which one's executed. We'll say that's the final. And that's where we want to get the data from. But then there's a next layer to that. Let's assume that the data extract from the note that we got doesn't meet the confidence threshold. Let's say it's 92 and we want a 95. Well, then if that's not good, where's the second document that I want to get the loan amount? And what's the third and what's the
Mhm.
fourth? So there's this whole process, the logic in the integration to be able to determine what's the primary location, what's the secondary, what's the tertiary, et cetera. So it will go through and fill in as much of the data as reliably as possibly can. So when I said I thought it was going to be the easiest thing in the world, I realized over the years of building this, first building the brain and then building the infrastructure and then building the integration, I realized it was by far, of all the things that I've built, the hardest thing that I've ever built.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it gets pretty complex, but it sounds like it's definitely paying off now. And so that's awesome to be able to design and create and bring all of that together. And so that's super cool. I know in the realm of like, extracting information from documents is so useful for so many different industries, really. And but I wanted to know, like, as you are diving deeper and deeper into this, are you seeing any new changes within the industry? I know there's always new things coming out. There's always new stuff. And so just kind of thinking about trends within the industry. Are you seeing anything that excites you?
Yeah, every day. It's Acres falls into that artificial intelligence machine learning world. So as you hear in the news, it's transforming many, many industries all over, and Acres no different. To that point where people's jobs will be displaced because of it. There's some truth to that, but I think that's the better way to say it is more reallocation.
Mhm.
But it's not just in the lending world; it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And what is important is constantly maintaining and updating your infrastructure to be able to handle it, both hardware wise, the brain, and the actual software front. Some of these applications that are 2, 3, 4 years old, they're now, I don't know if you want to use AI tech from 2020.
Yeah.
It's like it seems like even like 2 years ago, it's a big difference. If you look at chat, look at the version
Yeah.
two to now it's 5.1 just got rolled out,
Yeah.
or Gemini. Being able to update those and constantly refine them is a critical component. And we
Yeah.
have a very robust development schedule that we have over the next year. We're going to be rolling out a lot of really, really great features to even make it more efficient. But
Yeah.
that's the other key is I think you have to have a firm that not just builds and sells it, but builds and sells and uses it.
Mm.
If you're actually using your application and you get that firsthand experience as the user, you can, as a firm, be really responsive. Okay, what needs to be better? What needs to be improved? How do we do this? And I think that's where we're better placed than
Yeah.
most.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, right? Having that definitely sounds like a big competitive advantage of being the user of the product and yeah, and just staying on the top of what's coming out, and that's really cool. I'm interested to know, like, do you see where do you see this in like, like 3 to 5 years from now? Like, is there like a bigger picture of like what it may look like? I know it's like who knows what AI will look like in 3 to 5 years, right? Because it just keeps getting, so much more advanced, so much faster. But I don't know if you've thought about it that far ahead.
Every day. That's what my thing is. Is making short plans. So right now the I'm going to call it the loan fulfillment process. Typically, you have an originator or loan officer, you have a processor, you have an underwriter, you have a closer, you have a doc prep person, and even an underwriter can be brought into maybe one or two different groups. You have a compliance person, then you have a quality control person, and you have a supervisor. So each loan could be looked at five or six, seven different people. Okay. Um, Over time, it can be boiled down to one person or two people. Because you think about it, the loan officer is always going to be the loan officer to a certain degree. The people like having that relationship. Not always. Maybe want to go online, but let's assume the loan officer or the borrower can submit the documents. And from there, it can go through the entire fulfillment process. It can take a look at the documents, understand what's there, see what's wrong, send notifications back, perform all the other extraction, getting credit reports and ordering appraisals and doing all that as fraud reports, aggregating all that, calculating income, doing the full underwrite automatically, sending it then to compliance and validating all the disclosures are set, all the fees are appropriate and passes all the regulatory compliance, and then does a final check on it and then hands it off to one person to do an overview of it and then clears it to close. That is the future. It's 100% happening. Um, the key is who has the infrastructure and the knowledge and the ability to do it. There are a couple people doing segments of it to varying degrees, but the difference is at the foundation of that process is the document processing.
Mm,
If you don't
yeah,
have the document processing right, everything downstream will not work.
yeah,
So that's why when we built AiCR, we focused on the document processing because that's the foundation. But I'm telling you, within the next year or two, five at the max, the loan fulfillment process will be boiled down to one or two people instead of six, seven, eight, for sure.
yeah. That totally makes sense. And that's really it's exciting. It's very interesting. I know some people like you had said, like I know some people are like worried about AI taking so many jobs and this and that, but I would agree with what you mentioned a little bit ago, where it's like people will just be displaced. People will be used differently. There will be other ways to strategize and use people, right? And so it's very interesting. It's very it's exciting to see the efficiency of what is to come.
Well,
What's
if we,
currently happening and what's to come.
yeah, so if you let's use another example, okay? When desktop computers came out, everyone said, "Oh, everyone that types everything, the secretaries will be out of job and no one will work." Well, that's not true. The employment always increased. The employment rate's always there. They're just reallocated to other things. They're
Yeah.
doing other things that are equally as important. Technology is not a thing that actually displaces all of a sudden 50% of the population doesn't have jobs. They can do other things. And I believe over time, it's not going to be a harsh event. It's something that will naturally progress.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of talking heads out there talk about this all the time. Technology is a good thing. It's a very good thing. It allows people to be more efficient, allows resources to be properly allocated, allows people to focus on what they want to do.
Yeah.
And this has been for the last 200-300 years. Obviously, more recently is more prevalent, but I think it's a positive thing. So I'm not scared of how AI and technology is going to shift the economy. It absolutely 100% will. I think you just need to be mindful and embrace it. If you embrace it, you'll be successful. If you resist it, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And that's definitely a lot of what I've heard with people in the realm, of on the forefront, like yourself on the forefront of using AI technology. And so, yeah, that totally makes sense. I wanted to know is what is going well with Acre? Sounds like there's a lot coming out, a lot of development, but just wanted to know, like, has there been any recent wins that you guys have been having?
Um, yes, we had some wins, but you always have to realize as a leader of an organization, just like you, Chris, there's it's always a roller coaster ride where there's some really great days and some days you're like, oh man, why am I doing this? The difference is when you're leading a group, you have to just suck it up and get through it and
Yeah.
figure out a solution on how to overcome those down days because there's will always occur. Now, with Acre, I am extraordinarily blessed for a couple reasons. The team that we put together is second to none. Second to none. Very dedicated team. My parent organization, MIAC, is extremely supportive. I have a lot of relationships within the industry, so showing it and broadcasting it out to the world has been much easier because of the relationships that I've built over the couple of years, and because of that, my sales pipeline is pretty strong. It's really I'm really pleased with it. Now the hard part gets comes in is executing and delivering, which is the harder part of selling, in my point. But I'd rather have the that as my problem than trying to find prospects. So I
Yeah.
would say I'm very pleased with it. But the other thing that I found, and I sit back every day and I'm amazed by it. My world is banking and lending and risk. That's what I've been doing for 30 plus years. But I guess I'm one of those guys. I'm always talking about what I'm doing because I'm excited about it. It enthralls me. It's something that's new. And I come across people that I never thought would ever be interested in Acre. And there's a couple that I'll give you an example. One of my closest friends is a history professor at a university. He's using Acre to do research on historical documents. I never in a million years thought that would be something he did, but he's doing it. Another one of my colleagues' wife works in a hospital system. We're going to be using that to process their intake forms, which are mainly written, which is crazy, but yes, they're handwritten. So we're going to be using that in the hospital system. We have a firm that owns hundreds of retail strip centers, and their problem is they get the rents, and first time I see it is on their bank deposits. So they're loading the bank deposit, it scrapes it out, tells exactly what property, what unit it is, generates the rent roll, and pushes in their accounting system. Never in a million years ago, a year or 2 years ago, I would ever think it could be utilized from that. But here we are. So the fun part, and I would say the success is not just engaging more with my industry, is finding out new things to do with it and having people saying, that is really awesome. I want to give it a shot. That to me is a huge success.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's really awesome to hear that people are like thinking outside the box and using acres as a tool to help them in their industry, and so that's super cool. You had mentioned, that part of the challenge was, executing. I was wondering, something I always enjoy hearing about is like how are people navigating challenges? And so I'm wondering if you can share a little bit more about that challenge and how you are navigating it.
I'll gladly share it because you're right. You learn through those times.
Mhm.
And I'm going to talk on the technology side. Acre is technologically a very challenging application, thinking about what it does. And when we run it, it runs really well all the time, meaning the validation of the data that comes out is good. But every once in a while, we come across this use case that where the results are like, wow, that was not good. And in some case, and I'll use an easy example. There's this classification process, how to actually determine what the document is, and it's multi-tiered. So you'll have like the highest level, like it's a note, it's a security instrument, it's a bank statement, and then underneath that, it's like this is a Pennsylvania note, or this is a Bank of America bank statement, all those sort of things. And you can think about it, it's an infinite number of variations to that, infinite.
Mhm.
So when we were building this, the results we're getting were like, I'm not pleased with it. I want to be able to improve it. And there is a part of our brain, because our brain is more than just one brain. There's probably about 18 or 20 different elements that it runs through, that was handling this. And we realized that we needed to step back and address it. So, because it was not as successful as I wanted, it wasn't meeting my threshold. So I basically told the team, okay, my development staff, I said, let's take a step back. First night, get a good night's sleep so you can clear your brain. Let's come back in the morning. Let's think this through, come up with a strategy. And we did. And at the end of that strategy, not only is our process better than I thought it would be, it's actually more robust, where it actually is extremely reactive to everything. I'll give you an example. In a typical loan file, you have 700 pages. Only about 25 to 40% of those are known documents. The balance, which can be 60 to 75% of them, are a mishmash or whatever, because maybe the borrower sent over an email, they took a picture of this, or whatever the case may be. It's not standardized. And those are hard. We now, with that change of the classification process, now we're hitting 80 to 90% classification. I don't think we'll ever get 100 because it's really, really hard. But going from 40 to 50 up to 80 to 90 in a very short window of time and solving that is not only a testament of one, that we have challenges,
Mhm.
and two, we have a team to be able to execute on it, have the dedication to do it, and three, exceed our expectations. Now, I wish I would love to say every challenge is overcomable. So right now, I've been very fortunate. We've been able to overcome all of our challenges, but I guess there are varying degrees. That was a difficult one, and we came out the other side more successful, but it took effort, it took dedication, it took teamwork to be able to do it. And I think any challenge any business leader has or team member has, if they focus on that, they will be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is definitely a gem right there. It is a such an important part to have that team, to have that dedication. That is really cool to hear how you guys navigated that challenge, and came out the other side just stronger. And so that's really cool. I wanted to know, like, where do you see yourself? I know we talked a little bit about what it looks like in like 3 to 5 years, but like what does the future hold for Acre? Like, 6 months to a year down the road, are you guys trying to get a lot more users, or what does it look like over the next
Well,
6 months?
yeah. So I think right now we are getting our name out in the marketplace, whether it's be branding, for lack of better words, getting people to understand and know about it, get intrigued by it, engage with it. That's what you see if you go on my LinkedIn page or Acres LinkedIn page, you'll see a lot of unique videos and whatnot because we were having fun with it because why not? And just basically branding, just saying, hey, we're out here, let's talk to us. So that's what we're focusing on. And by proxy, we're getting, when they see it, they're like, wow, this is actually, it works and it makes sense and it fits into my program and it makes me more efficient. And that's how we'll be able to get the benefit of that pipeline. So realistically, 2026 is really three things. One, continue our development of enhancing our features to it, which is critical. The second one is just continuing our branding and market awareness. And three is executing on converting these prospects into um, usable users. That's going to be the next year. After that, it's going to be just a growth trajectory, which I believe will have significant growth. But my longer term strategy is, as I said, I've been in this business for decades now. Uh, Acre's a lot bigger than me. It's a lot bigger than me. So once we get past these foundational levels, it's building a team around me to be able to ensure that I'm not Acre and Acre's not me. It's a team situation, and sometimes that's challenging. But needless to say, I'm so proud of the team that's around it. Being able to have, you know, Acre succeed with or without me is secondary. But ultimately, 2026 is going to be a big year for us. 2027, over there's going to be a super growth, and then from there, the sky's the limit.
That's right. That's right. That's exciting. Yeah, that is awesome. Well, I think that's just cool. I'm excited to see just where Acre goes and just follow and obviously, when the time comes for me, be a user, hopefully one day.
Love to have
Um,
you as a user, Chris. You're
yeah,
always
and
welcome.
and any of the listeners out there, any of the followers, it sounds like an awesome tool. It sounds like something that is definitely making a change in the industry. And so, yeah, Joe, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. Before we go, can you share just a little bit more where any of the listeners can find more out about Acre?
No problem. I would say there's two spots. Our web address is acre.io, AICR.io. That's always a good way. But we're very, very active in LinkedIn. So you can search for me, Joe Furlong, or just search Acre. You will find us. It's always a good way to get a hold of us and see what's going on.
Yeah, awesome. Well, to close, I'd like to ask one last question, right? Since this is the Business Leaders Legacy podcast, and you being a business leader, the CEO, founder of Acre, can you please share what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
Wow, that's a great question. And honestly, I haven't really thought about it. For me, is just to see the growth of Acre and become a verb.
Yeah.
That would be great for me if Acre becomes a verb.
Yeah, that's cool. That is exciting. It definitely seems like it's on its way there. So
Thank you.
awesome. Well, thank you again, Joe. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate the insight. Appreciate you sharing about Acre. For all of our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thank you again, Joe.
Thank you, Chris.